I've got a classic recipe for you now. It's a deep-filled apple pie. Now to start with, we're going to make the pastry. And you can make pastry by hand really effectively, but I've got a very warm hand, so I actually prefer this method using a food processor. It's really a traditional method we're going to use. So we've got twice as much flour to butter. That's going to go into the food processor. There we go, tip it in. The butter needs to be cold. Pastry, you know, for a delicate finish, make sure everything's chilled. The flour's been sifted and the butter's chilled and diced. I'm just going to drop it in. Try not to handle it too much. In it goes. And then we're just going to whisk that to form lovely fine crumbs. Just going to check that there aren't any big lumps. It looks pretty well blended to me. So we're just going to add some cold water. Again, make it as cold as you can. You need 2 or 3 tablespoons, and with the motor running, just drizzle it in. It's formed quite a nice, moist pastry here. We don't want it dry. It's quite a fine balance. If it's dry, it's going to really crack when you go to roll it out. I think I'd rather add a tiny bit more water and have it too soft than too dry. This is really quite nice. Lift it out. Remember, try and handle it as little as possible. I'm going to shape it really roughly into a ball. And then I've got a nice little sheet of cling film here that I'm just going to wrap it up in. It needs about half an hour in the fridge just to chill it down and let it rest and firm up a little bit. And while that's happening, I'm going to make the filling, the apple pie filling, to go inside the pastry case. Now for the filling, I'm going to put some golden caster sugar into a large bowl. And I've got some sultanas. Again, it's a classic pairing with apple. There we go. Now I've got 1 lemon, unwaxed. I'm just going to get the rind off with a fine grater. There we are. And let's get that juice out. So that's the last of my apple. And if you can see here, the sugar's really started melting and the apple's releasing its juices. So there's already quite a lot of juice at the bottom of my bowl. And when the apple's cooked, they're going to release more juice as they start to soften. So what I'm going to do there, I'm going to add some flour. And what will happen is, as they cook, the flour will thicken and make those juices into a delicious sauce. So you need about 3 tablespoons. Just sprinkle it over the top. And then a teaspoon of ground mixed spice, just to bring that apple and sultanas to life. There we go. A good mix round. Make sure the apples are all coated in spice and flour. So that's my filling sorted. I'm just going to go and get that pastry out of the fridge. It's firmed up slightly. Let's get it out. Now, for the base of the dish, I'm going to use 2/3. So let's just take a bit off for the top, fold that back up, set it aside. So we're getting there, and what we're looking for is a thickness of a £1 coin. So that's about 3 to 4 millimetres, I guess. Now, put a little bit of flour onto your rolling pin and very loosely roll that pastry on. Try to get the sort of bottom edge close to the bottom edge of your tin. Then out it goes. Then using your hands, just ease it in. Very gentle. I'm not going to push it too far into the corners, just let it relax itself. Okay, I'm going to leave the edges to overhang and I'm going to get those apples inside. That's quite hard to predict because the apples are all different sizes. So you might have a little bit of pastry left over, a few apples left over to make a little tart to go on the side and stick in the freezer. Spoon it in. That's why it's quite good to slice your apples thinly so that they nestle in really well and that they cook more evenly. There we go. Pat it down well. Now let's just push that aside and get that lid. So we've got that reserved third. And we'll just see if it's large enough to cover the top. I think it looks all right. So what we'll do now is we'll just dampen the edges with a little bit of milk, just to make sure it sticks together. So let's go for that lid. I'm going to lift it up again with my rolling pin. Get rid of any excess flour. And let's try and position it. Just let it fall over the top. And then with my thumb, I'm just going to press it to seal. Last little crimp. So the pie's nearly ready now. What I'm going to do, brush the surface with a little bit of milk. Give it some nice colour. There So we need to make a little hole or two just so the steam can escape during cooking. You can do a couple of slashes or a little cross, whatever you prefer. So that is 45 minutes in the oven, and then you need to let it rest for about half an hour before you serve it. So my apple pie is out of the oven and had a little rest now, so it's time to serve it up.